I'm following along fine.
We're talking about Pizza Rat, and then you went into knee braces, sleeping on a horse, and eating sausages.
Out there in radio land, I'm killing it.
At 660 AM, 105.5 FM, online at FloridaManRadio.com, or anytime, anywhere with the Florida Man Radio app. Download it now in your Google Play or App Store.
Get it right now.
Florida Man is on the loose, unfiltered, unafraid. Florida Man Radio.
And we are back on the Ed Tyll Show. Ella Scheinwald is with us. She's written a book about her father's experience in a concentration camp. She joins us today as there's been a flurry of anti-Semitism, unbelievably related to coronavirus. We're so thankful for her time today. Do you mind if we take a question from Lisa?
Oh, no.
Lisa,
Yeah,
I want to get you two together. You told me earlier, tell Ella what you said to me, your connection to the Holocaust is.
Well, my two cousins were searching back throughout our history on my Polish side, and we have a branch of our family there where you research them and you could see, like, the births and the marriages. And then when it came to the Holocaust, everything was gone. And come to find out, I had two uncles who went to Auschwitz and were murdered there. So,
Ellen, how many times have you heard some story like that, some, brief snippet? What is that? How does that blend in with everything else that you know? Pretty common, I guess, heartbreakingly so.
well, I am a second generation, and most of my friends parents experienced the Holocaust. Most people in the United States are familiar with Auschwitz or heard the name, maybe not most, but many. My father was in corporate-owned labor camps that were very small, that companies used Jewish slave force to, build, manufacture weapons, various ammunition, things like that, and murdered them in the process, murdered their own manpower. But my life has been, touched by so many people who lost families, whether in those well-known camps, so to speak, like Auschwitz, or smaller camps, or tiny camps where mass murder used to occur every single day. And these camps were owned by companies who were cooperating with the Nazi regime. Unfortunately, there were some American companies who did that also. But my father's experiences included a few of these labor camps, and also camps like Buchenwald and Mauthausen, which are more well known, in the public. But yes, it's a very familiar subtext of my whole life. What Lisa was mentioning.
My ears are hearing. Again, listening to you so carefully, this work is not over. You don't sound like someone who has arrived at the destination. This book is an enormous contribution. But tell me, as you, tomorrow, the next day, it continues to be important to you that others understand this. It isn't just knowing a word. It isn't just getting a snippet of a headline. There's a human story here. Why do you tell that? What moves you to tell the story?
Great question again, Ed. I think we should be aware of the collective narrative that's happening around us. And it's going to be a lifelong battle for me to listen to this collective narrative, which, when we talk about anti-Semitism, we really need to change it once and for all, and it can be done. It's not about free expression. Free expression is one thing, but threatening
and killing and harassing and degrading and intimidating is something completely different. You know, there are groups in this country that intrude upon synagogue services that are done online now because of the COVID, and they break into the Zoom videos and threaten families and children, you know, that they would be gassed again, or that they need to be murdered again, or that Hitler didn't finish his job. And I think that it's shameful that in the United States of America, this beautiful country of ours, this narrative is still happening. And I think we should all decide to change it once and for all. And we can do it, but we need to be working together, and as I said previously, to be accountable for one another. We should not just dismiss it. Oh, it's like, you know, a fringe group. No, it's not a fringe group. It's a latent, ongoing subtext of society in this country, and we should reject it. And when anti-Semitic acts or words take place here, people should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We should not just dismiss it as acts of, you know, crazy people. Because the murderers in Europe, they were not crazy. They were completely normal. They had families. They loved their children. Maybe they had a dog and a parent at home. But they still woke up every day and went to murder other people's children and other people's parents. And we should really be very wary of where we're going with that, and what the political dialogue is, and what the public discourse is, so that it never happens again, and that it's not even allowed to be expressed again.
It is.
So, yes.
It is a striking challenge for the human spirit, but for the American with our freedom. This is the striking challenge. If you are going to have a free people, there must be a moral guiding light. If it is random and valueless, your experience and your family's experience and thousands of years of the Jewish history shows you what mankind is capable of. We have been, since the Middle Ages, we're trying to raise up out of this element, random cruelty, diminishing of another's humanity to enable me to do it. It's okay for me to do it because they're less than me. This is the great evil of planet Earth, and it's not from a diabolical villain. I think we know this now. We're going to stop looking for boogeymen on this. This is in the human DNA, and we are trying to expel it. But you help us remember why it's so toxic, what it could do. And here it is, back with coronavirus, because it is like a virus itself, is it not? Anti-Semitism is like a virus.
Anti-Semitism will burn anyone inside. The people who feel these sentiments. The problem is that it's not new. It's almost like a default response. Anything bad happens,
right?
Let's express anti-Semitism. You know, it started many, many centuries ago when there was the Black Plague in the 14th century.
Correct.
Jews were blamed for it.
Yep.
And yes, we need to recalibrate our moral compass. And even though it's a striking challenge, it can be done if we decide that we do it together. We just need to decide we want that. Because if not, the toxicity you're talking about will erode us from within.
You are such a beautiful soul. May I say that to you? I don't know if people are saying this to you. You're a beautiful soul. Your energy and your determination comes right through. I want to thank you for bringing some of this to me, to our listeners, to Lisa on the phone, to everybody hearing you. Thank you. And I'll tell you, this will not be our only conversation. If you have time, I hope we will speak again soon, Ella. But congratulations on the book, and thank you for being generous with your time.
Thank you so much, Edward. and I wish you much good health. And we can work together, and I would be more than honored to be on your show again.
Bless you. Now, one more time, the title of the book and where they I'm sure they can get it on Amazon. Isn't everything in the world on Amazon? But go ahead. Give them the right? Give them the title one more time and how you would like them to pick up your book.
It's called Wolf, A Story of Hate, published by Amsterdam Publishers, sold on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It's on pre-order now, so people can buy it on discount until May 6th, paperback or digital. Thank you so much, Ed.
Ella Scheinwald, thank you. You are spectacular. And we're all grateful for the time today.
Grew up working class in a place they call the Bronx.
This is a great day. Dave Berman has been with us before. He writes for Florida Today. He is the great media. We talk a lot about the national media and the who's he what's in Washington. We have some of the best people reporting local news right here in Central Florida. Stand by for Dave.
Now that you tuned them in, you know what I mean. People call him up, discussing every scene. Love him or hate him, he's gonna have his say. He's gonna speak his mind each and every day. It's the Ed Tyll Show. It's the Ed Tyll Show. Come on, everybody. It's Ed Tyll.
Come on, everybody, it's Tyll. Come on, everybody, it's Tyll. You may not like what he has to say, but he's gonna say it anyway. He said Tyll. Come on, everybody, it's Tyll. Come on, everybody, it's Tyll. He's the baddest cat around. Got that sharpest tongue in this whole damn town. It's Tyll. All the news and storylines to all the main events. He's a voice in the wilderness that doesn't make any sense. He's a Tyll.
El número o código que usted ha marcado es incorrecto.
Hey, Lisa, wasn't she amazing? I love that lady, and she's got all that fire in her still. All that great energy.
Yeah, next time you're ever on, I've got a few questions for her.
Well, go ahead. Why don't you talk about her for a second? That's what I'd like. Why don't you reflect on? What did you hear from her? What did you learn from her? What came through in that interview? I think it was chock full. But that's just me. You know, I come out of the Bronx. I know ladies like Ella since I was a little boy. My mom would be talking to somebody like Ella on a street corner for like 5 or 6 minutes, and I wouldn't know what they're talking about. It's not my business. But I would see how my mom, being a young mother and then an older woman in the neighborhood, they had plenty to say to each other. Like, nobody was blowing anybody off. Like, oh, nice to see you. Boom. It was like, hey, how are you? What's going on? Hey, listen, that nephew of yours, wasn't he going to car? Yeah, and didn't you guys get a car? All of the details were joyful. That's where you had the fun. You had the fun. My mom taught me this when I was a kid. Older people love to tell you stories. But the worst thing about being them is a lot of times young people don't have time for it. Young people will be like, geez, you know what, Grandpa? Great, but I gotta go. And when you have time for them, when you make the time because of them, they always say like, oh, listen, I know you got a lot of things to do. No. You know what? I got rid of those things. I wanted you and me to have just a few. I haven't seen you in so long. We used to say things like, "How have you been?" Like, it's not how you've been; it's how have you been. Do you understand that dynamic from the olden days? We're losing that, but that was great, wasn't it?
Well, hopefully, with all of us stuck being together in this coronavirus, we'll learn how to talk to each other again.
Yeah, go ahead. Discuss that a little bit. Exactly. I think that's an excellent point. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, everybody's always on their tablets. You go out to a restaurant, everybody's always on their iPhones. Nobody's communicating. 20-year-olds don't know how to communicate face-to-face. They do everything through the Internet. So, now that people are more like establishing family dinners and family time, and we're all stuck together in the house, and you're forced to talk to each other, it's bringing back the art of conversation again, being able to communicate with each other in a positive way.
Yeah, and
that's how I see it.
Isn't it? And you have to practice that, right? You don't do that one time in one sitting. You get good. The conversation's only worth it if you're having it all the time. A conversation once a week with a family is nothing. That's nothing. It's not going to get you anywhere. That's not no progress, nothing. But if it is, in fact, old school, time to eat. This is great now. This is the way it should be. COVID is not a good thing causing it. But if what you want is great, if what you want is amazing, here's your shot. If you want it. I mean, there are a lot of people like they don't miss it. They never had it. If you grew up in a horrible, a lot of broken homes up there, all over the place, a lot of broken homes. If you are not familiar with how amazing it is, you're not going to stop and do this. But if you have, along the way, known how great it is, if you've ever said, this is obviously one of the biggest things you could do in the interim now. You could take that step back. The family dinner can be altogether back. Shouldn't everybody be doing something? No one's allowed to be just watching TV by who? The professional cook is doing the cooking? No. Come on, man. You know how it goes. You know what your job is. Get in there and peel potatoes for your mom. Get in there and get the tomatoes from the yard. Bring them in. Wash the tomatoes. In other words, there's all kinds of labor that makes you responsible for what's going on. Then you can't disengage because you have to do the vegetables. You have to you have a responsibility for dinner. You don't just get to eat dinner. You have a job that has to be done right, that you have to pay attention to in order for. I love all that. That to me could save us in so many ways, even though coronavirus is a horrible reason for it to happen. Let me see if I have Dave on the line. Dave Berman, are you with me?
I am, yes.
Love having you back on the show. I was calling your other line there before. I was vamping like crazy, so I'm glad I saw this must be your cell phone. Thank you for being on. Listen, last time I had you on, it was the same thing. I love local journalism, and I'm nauseated by national journalism. So when you put out a golden piece, last time you were on, we were talking about keeping an eye on wasteful spending at the county level because somebody didn't like the invocation and felt they were being left out of the First Amendment. That was a wild story, and I appreciated it. This one is so close to home. I asked you this last time. Why do you love doing local journalism? And isn't this a perfect example of what local journalism ought to be? The story, go ahead. I'm going to let you tell it, Dave. I love having you on. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad to be here. This story is about how the coronavirus pandemic is affecting small businesses, and small businesses are trying to get help from the government, which there are some programs available to help them. But at this point, so many people are trying to do the same thing, so many businesses are trying to do the same thing, that the businesses that are really struggling are not able to get through to get the help they might need.
You know,
And so,
you have a piece
Go
in
ahead.
there, you have an interview with a business owner, extremely compelling. But again, I thought maybe you'd mention why that's important in local journalism. Like, let the audience in a little bit on the process. You interviewed her. She gave
Right.
a flavor to the data that, you know what I mean? I don't mean to interrupt, but it's so good for the public to see how a real journalist does what they do.
well, we try to put like real life examples to, in addition to what like the government or officials are doing, like real life examples. And in this case, this is a owner of a small company that basically makes T-shirts for events and for running races or festivals and things like that, school events. And basically, all her business is pretty much wiped out because all these events have been canceled. This is a company called Sandpiper Sportswear in Melbourne. And she's been trying to get help through the Small Business Administration, which has a loan program specifically for small businesses that have been hurt by shutdowns because of the coronavirus. And she's put in her application, but she's made a number of phone calls and emails, but she said she's seen nothing and heard nothing from the people that administer the loans. So she's getting frustrated. She's trying to keep her employees. She has 7 employees, trying to keep them all on the payroll. She has done that so far, but it's getting to be frustrating. And she says she's had maybe 2 orders in the last week where she might get 2 orders in 1 hour in normal times. So obviously she's losing money and trying to keep her staff paid while she's really struggling to make ends meet.
I just have to thank you so much for the way you told that. That's like talking to a reporter. Honest to God, you just don't hear what a reporter sounds like much anymore. Thank you. So, what's the context? Her story represents a lot. Her right, the elements of her story are found in many stories. Go ahead, put that into context for us from what you're hearing and what you're seeing in your reporting along the way.
Right, and like you said, that her story is typical of many other small businesses throughout the area, throughout the country, small restaurants or retail shops that are in downtown areas that not big chains. I mean, most of the big chains are probably gonna survive, but it's these small businesses, the ones that have maybe 1 store or 2 stores in a community, and they're trying to, they have basically no customers at this point.
Right.
But they still have their fixed expenses. They have to still pay their rent, and they still, unless they cut their staff, they still have to pay their workers. And meanwhile, they have their own personal bills to pay, but they're not getting any income from their businesses. So they have their own mortgages or car payments or utility payments that they have to make on their on their personal properties, or maybe if they have children in college, they still have to make those tuition payments, for example, but they're not getting any revenue coming in from their business, or a very tiny amount of it.
Dave,
So it's
Dave
going
Berman,
on.
I just wanted to identify you to the listeners who are following carefully. This is great reporting. Dave Berman reports the news for Florida Today. His story, if you go on Florida Today right now, showing up close the human side, the local side of this SBA movement in Washington, right? The big tsunami of money that's supposed to come down. But what does that really mean to a woman running a business for 30 years in Melbourne? Dave, I don't know if you know this, and we may not be the only ones anymore, but did you know that our station and all the stations in our company, all across the state of Florida, but also in the state of New York, all of our radio stations are doing free advertising. They're not taking a nickel. They're letting folks call in. They do a little voicemail about their business. Hi, I'm Joe at Joe's Hardware. I miss you. And for COVID, we're doing this for free. And we have people all over our company coming in for free. volunteering, not take. It is devastating, but we have tools. You know what I mean? We're not completely flat-footed, but man, it is time to grab the wrenches and tweak it and make it work. But people are coming forward to give. You're seeing a humanity, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I mean that's you're seeing the best in people coming out for a lot of people, and unfortunately you're seeing the worst in some people. But something like that your station group is doing is great because these businesses are really struggling and they need to get the message out, and they may not have the funds right now to advertise, to pay for paid advertising, but in the future, if these businesses stay in operation, then it's an investment that's being made.
Of course,
these
come on.
Businesses going.
We all chip in. We all chip in to raise a barn, get that water out of our neighbor's basement, get around the broken sewer pipe for the weekend because the city can't get. Americans know the drill. We're just applying it differently. But you know what it is? I heard your voice as you were telling the story. It sounds like the voices I'm hearing. America is sounding more human, and I just love what you do. Do you love your job? I asked you last time. You must love your job, right? You're working, you're a news guy. You love this.
Oh, yeah. It's like the best job that could be because it's, you meet people all the time, and every day is different, and you never know what the story is going to be 3 days from now. So it's always something different and something interesting. And personally, I've been in this business for a long time, but I still learn a lot every day from talking to people and getting their stories and finding out about different topics that I might not be familiar with.
Dave, I don't know how to express this appreciation. There's one more angle to love about you. Can I? Do you mind? I know I'm showering you. I don't mean to make you uncomfortable. There's one more thing.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Do you mind? Okay. I get the feeling you're not a glamour boy. You don't envy Don Lemon, huh? You don't want to be in Don Lemon's dressing room, do you? Do you want all those the entourage? Oh, Dave, your limo, your Uber is here, your makeup is here, your latte with chai tea and make-believe milk is here. You would never be that guy, would you? You don't want that. That's not the news biz.
No, I think the news biz is, going, talking one-on-one with people and finding their stories and trying to tell their stories in, either in broadcasting or in print, and just kind of informing the public and letting the public know what they need to know about different topics.
Amen, brother. I'm in. I am at your services anytime. I am with you. I also, I think of when I have a gentleman like you on the show, I think back to all the great things when you were a kid. You opened up that newspaper, and I could depend on what happened to the Yankees. I could depend on what I depend. I never had a question ever. And I used to pay 3 cents when I was a little kid, a nickel for the Sunday. I remember when it went to a dime, everybody had a cow. It's a revered profession that you have. So thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's all I can say is thanks. High five. Love talking to you. You put it back in perspective. We have a host. You made me think earlier. Just listening to you, Dave, made me think of Justin Clark. He's another one. He's close up with all these business guys. One day he says, "What the heck?" He goes, "I'm just going to start letting businesses call in. How are you doing? Say what you offer to the community and put a human voice to all of these numbers, addresses." You know this. You traffic in human voices and humanity, and that's the best part of journalism. You do have the best gig. You absolutely do.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah.
All right, man. How do they find you? If you want to look you up, you go to Florida Today, and you're always with a magnificent story, Dave Berman. And the story that we're discussing is front and center at Florida Today right now. Small Business Administration. How is it helping? How is it felt? What is the texture of it in Brevard County? Dave Berman, Florida Today. Right on, baby, is all I could say. Do you love this? They need us now. They need us. Let's give them what they need, right?
Right. I mean, that's one thing about this is that we, the public is depending a lot on the broadcast media, on the print media right now to give them the straight information that, is not colored by nuances of politics or anything like that. They need the correct factual information right now.
You said it. You said it. Yep.
Yeah.
That's it, man. Well, listen, have a great rest of the day. I'm sure you're working on exciting stuff. So I look forward to the next time that we talk, and have a great rest of the day, okay?
Thanks, you too, and thanks for having me on.
You bet. My pleasure, man. You got that right.
This is the Ed Tyll Show.
Florida Man Radio.
Oh, man, that was some rock and roll right there. Lisa, look at all that great stuff when we come back.
You don't have to worry about going there at all. The home delivery service, in which a pair of scantily clad strippers will deliver hot food to your door, started as a joke, but people began seriously inquiring and seriously ordering
Talking to all these people.
the food.
Tell you right now, what the hell you're doing in there was pretty good.
Starting at
I was
10
listening. I don't know what the hell you're all talking about, but it sounds like you know something's about something.
Hi, Johnny Leone with Seminole Power Sports, and we just want to thank everybody for all their continued support during these unprecedented times. We are following all recommended guidelines when it comes to protecting our employees and customers from the coronavirus. We are here to make sure everything from sales, parts, and service are easy, safe, and convenient for all our customers, including but not limited to shipping parts, curbside service drop-offs, and at-home deliveries for sales. Let's support all local businesses, and thank you again for choosing Seminole Power Sports, your number one in fast fun.
Ed Tyll dances like the
To the truckers,
cat in
first
the video of
responders,
Paula Abdul.
businesses
That's where
big
I
and
got my
small,
dance steps,
Maudlin
right off that
International
cat.
Truck and Trailer are with you for the long haul. We're currently offering 6 months no payments on new Class 4 through 8 commercial vehicles for qualified buyers. Maudlin International locations are open to serve you with parts and maintenance, trailers, truck sales, rental, and leasing. Call 888